first going to look at Scotland v Wales, which is a very interesting one. That's actually probably close to my game of the weekend anyway, in terms of just matchup. But that and Ireland, to be honest, like they're both really good fixtures and traditional fixtures that go back pretty well. But yeah, Scotland in Murrayfield, always dangerous. A wounded Scotland in Murrayfield, a somewhat written off Scotland in Murrayfield, possibly even more so. Wales on course for a Grand Slam. If history's anything to go on, normally Wales are quite a streaky team that can go in either bad runs or good runs, and if they're on a good run, it's very rare that they get thrown off it. Certainly they seem on course to be going for Grand Slam deciders, if not Grand Slams this year, so it'll take a lot for Scotland to stop that, I think.
Yeah, Scotland have almost bigger issues than all that on their minds. It's just about starting to get things right for them, really. Pressure's off them in a sense, on them in another sense, and just that they're not. There was some optimism after that Italy game, but to be honest, it was muted somewhat, and then a very, very disappointing performance against Ireland, and not as terrible a performance in Paris, but just a
bad result.
A bad result, yeah, and a backline that wasn't firing, and amidst a pretty crippling injury crisis for sure. But they're just to my running theory on it is that there's a conflict of styles that's running through the team between what Gregor Townsend is talking about of his like playing at a fast tempo. Everything is free flowing. It goes through Finn, it goes through Hugh Jones, it goes through Stuart Hogg, and
none of whom were there.
Well, Finn is there back this week, obviously, but Hugh and Stuart are still not. Yeah, and so then there's this through line where instead they're vaguely trying to play the same way,
but with Edinburgh personnel.
Yeah,
a lot more. Yeah,
Sam Johnsons and. It's just it's not clicking at the moment. They're not doing anything right in attack. Their pack are actually doing a functional enough job, I would say. They're not, doing anything remarkable, but their scrums are holding up, and they're until their replacements come on, their scrums are holding up. Yeah. And then the line-out's doing functional enough, and they're not being crippled like in an old school Scottish way around the fringes by anybody. Yeah. They are defending actually admirably enough, but just not attacking. It's the attack that's killing them.
Yeah, and it's been a curious head scratching one to watch. It kind of feels like they need to evolve a bit more then, because we were touching on it in a few weeks gone by how impatient they can look with their trying to cling on to that attacking identity, but it's not quite on. And then they're just like leaking cheap possession a lot of the time, which is costing them games, big game moments, kind of passing them by. And it's like they've still got those great. They do need to maintain that edge where they go for those tries. They need to maintain that kind of killer instinct in attack
to be going for
sure. Have it. Yeah. But they need to have more ways of playing the game than that, and like that's been a good little progression here in terms of what Edinburgh have done in the domestic season and filtering through to, like you're saying, the pack standing up in Paris and not getting bullied and rolled over, which was impressive. But it's like the net result being the same, because the backline was misfiring and they just got outshot in a gunfight. They got kind of outshot. And like it feels like they're at a point where it was. We were discussing it, and you made the good point. It's like we have this analogy going that they're very similar to Eddie Jones, or not Eddie Jones, Eddie O'Sullivan's Ireland from years ago, in that they had like a wonderful superstars in the back line, really creative, possibly one of the most devastating teams in the world at the time off first phase, like set plays, really good strike plays, innovative stuff in the back line, a bit of a softness in the middle of it though, like the pack, despite having some great men in there, like couldn't stand up, couldn't keep a scrum up, always had to operate on 30% possession, and so found very creative attacking ways of quickly turning that into points, which is great to watch. And especially coming from a place where Ireland had been, which is where the analogy is actually more apt, is like Scotland for years, like Ireland, where for years before that kind of iteration with that generation coming through, were just so bad. Like people who remember Irish rugby in the 90s were just utterly depressing viewing. Nothing good about it. Like barely even a player to be proud of that you could kind of cite a lot of the time. It was just really wogus stuff. And Scotland similarly, all through the noughties, were such a poor team, and they brought games to ugly, turgid, slow places where they're trying to rough people up, but then there's penalties and drop balls and scrums, and it's like nothing is flowing about the game at all, and their only best good chance to stay even in a respectable state is to try and just drag the game into the mud and hopefully cling on. And they weren't even losing bonus points, it was just saving face in that era. So like coming from that place, the best thing you can do is just encourage techers, a bit of catch pass, a bit of go for the try, a bit of flair. And that's what this Glasgow and now this Scotland side have finally filtered in, is just that. But what we found with the Eddie O'Sullivan experiment, as we were harking back to it last week in the 07 World Cup, where they ended up probably overtraining and not reaching that level. But it's like once you get to a level of consistently doing that, the little gaps start to reveal themselves against the top teams, those little inches that are missing, some of the work that's not being done certainly in the type, but also in just when games go different places. They're not like, they don't have the full toolkit yet, and it's just they've only been developing so far, and it feels like it's been a bit of a stutter in that what has been kind of quite an exponential growth if you're counting it back from Glasgow right the way through to what Scotland have been doing for the last few years. This is definitely one of the more notable step backs that has happened even since that cycle,
I would say so,
gone.
yeah.
So it really needs to be a refocus and build another layer on top, because you see where Ireland are at now, where that generation has played, done really well, got some unprecedented success, which is something that this Scotland side could still do with things like Triple Crowns, things like a few.
It was a very, very different era in the sense that the main competitor in terms of the Six Nations was France. Yeah. So Triple Crown became sort of a cool consolation prize. Yes. Whereas now it's impossible to conceive of a season where Triple Crown is won and the Grand Slam doesn't come along with it.
Yes, that's true. So that's definitely, the landscape has changed in that regard. But like not even silverware, bits like scalps. They got
a Calcutta Cup last year.
They did.
That was huge.
That's true. That's true. That's and that's like, you have to tip your hat to them. They played phenomenally. It is a
that
day
they'll remember.
Yeah,
but,
for sure. But it's only that. And you're talking about World Cup cycles. The next one now needs to be a big, because we're already their lineup in this one isn't very good. But they've built a lot to grow a lot in that time. They've added a huge dimension to this competition. They need to be adding their next layer and becoming a bit more of a professional, cohesive side, which they're not quite at yet. Like contrasting with that with Wales, who are the opposite. They have like literally been growing for longer than any team in a sustained kind of setup where the coach has been rigid and the personnel have rotated. Like, you're thinking Sam Warburton came in, did his whole career, and it's now finished, and we're still here with the same setup, same coaches. Like, that's phenomenal, and it's all kind of built off blueprints that people like Sam Warburton put in place, but other kind of key men over the years. So Wales are looking like the most mature side in this kind of competition this year, to be honest. They look very, very assured in what they're doing. A little bit like they took some liberties in Rome with their selection, their rotation, and probably paid the price for that in terms of being a bit too casual with their 3-pointers and then kind of falling asunder, but they still got the win. Yeah. And they're just in Grand Slam or bust mode, and it's Scotland standing in their way this time. I kind of backed them to go up there and take it.
Yeah, I mean, can't disagree with a lot of that. I think from Scotland's perspective, it's just got to be about I think getting the attack right, and it's very dependent on, obviously they don't have Hugh Jones and Stuart Hall, but it's very dependent. They'll lean a lot on Finn Russell, but on what the Welsh defensive setup does. Yeah, because I think they'll back Blair Kinghorn and they'll back the wings, whoever they pick. I would like to see
Darcy Graham get in there.
Over Sean Maitland. Yeah,
he scored a couple of tries for Sarries at the weekend. Sean Maitland.
Did he really?
Bagged a brace. No. But he's been playing pretty poorly in Scotland.
Maybe he'll come good, but you'd think they'd back those guys to execute simple plays if they get outside Jay Davis. That would be plan A. That, soft outside of the Welsh defence, where you get guys like George North, who's always been
ropey reads sometimes.
And Josh Adams on the other side, quite an inexperienced defender at test level, and those are the kind of matchups they'll want to generate. What a lot of teams have done is adjusted to the Scottish way and the Glasgow way as well, by extension, of just zipping wide, and they just defences are now resourcing that area pretty well. So what you'd like to see is Scotland adjusting to that without the Finn Russell chipping behind and those kind of impatient plays.
Yeah.
And maybe just being a little more patient, backing themselves, maybe to actually get a bit of ground gain.
Go
maybe
forward in the tight. Yeah.
Catch Wales off. You got Josh Strauss in there, you got Grant Gilchrist, you got Ben Toulis, you got guys who can
kind of want Laidlaw marshalling that then. Orchestrating some purchase around the fringes would be nice.
They do need to stay true to themselves in the sense that it does need to be quick. And the offensive breakdown is going to be massive. We know how good Wales are at slowing up ball.
Yes, indeed.
That's an area that they can't afford to be sloppy on.
Yeah.
They gotta get
because Wales will win penalties if they're going if the clean out is sloppy. They'll survive that, but more often than not as well, like they'll be just there to try and spoil and harass and then keep their width.
It's good that they back themselves off first to do things with ball in hand, and then conversely, like when Scotland kick the ball a lot of the time, you see it happen after attacks have broken down. So it's maybe 2 or 3 unsuccessful attempts at breaking the line. The ball slows up.
Aimless kick. Well, not an aimless kick, but
whether it's
a fanciful kick.
Whether it's a box kick or an attempted game-breaking kick by Finn Russell or just a deep kick, the kicks come in predictable ways after an attack is done. You'd like to see them work in, especially if the Welsh wingers are pushed up,
which they can do. Yeah,
just a few off maybe first phase or second phase, not even contestables, but maybe just long territory kicks. Play the game, play just a bit smarter and vary what they do with the ball a little bit, which will just give a little bit of purchase in the Welsh defence and a little bit of uncertainty for when they do go wide, because right now things are just getting a bit stale and predictable.
It's true. That's why the injection of Finn will definitely help with that, because they were
man's on fire. He scored a beautiful try last week for Racing.
He will be there to try and marshal those troops around. Like it was unfortunate, and like we were saying it as well last week in our review of the game just gone. But like to see Peter Horne so out of his depth in Paris there at 10, it's just such a shame, because like even like coming off the bench, your man Hastings looked like a world beater just by kind of looking a bit more like a 10. Like even the structures, that the shape they were in once he came in resembled more of a backline than what they had with the 3 centres in there. And it was just none of it was gelling or working. And now, Finn back in order. Like against Ireland, there were some good little signs from that centre pairing as well. They're positive ones. They didn't play their best game at all, and it's still the jury's out in terms of their centres. It feels like, because now Hugh Jones feels like the incumbent because he's that little bit of X factor that they want to play. But
I'd like to see Johnston, not Sam Johnson, but Johnston from
Edinburgh.
13.
And then he's playing really well. He scored a try as well at the weekend.
Bubble bath centres. Johnson and Johnston.
Yeah. Just don't get them in your eyes.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that would be a nice little variation. As industrious as Nick Grigg attempted to be.
Yeah, Nick Grigg actually had a very disappointing game, which is unfortunate because I quite like Nick Grigg and his hustle.
Hustle is the word. But he's never quite been a test level guy.
No, it's true.
And the other thing you'd want to see from the Scottish attack is just positivity in terms of the lines that they're running and the pace that they play at. It's so key. Last week they made a few line breaks and there was just no tracking runners until the very end when Ali Price managed to get a try. That was the only tracking run that was ran all day.
It's not good enough.
That's what you need. Offloads and tracking runs. That's their recipe for success against these top sides.
And Scotland are in a position certainly now, and as part of it suits their kind of code of how they want to play as well, but like tries need to be what they get, and they need to be converting early on if they're getting opportunities. If Wales are a little off the pace, that's when they need to be on it and grabbing those tries, and like ideally 14-0, kind of jump into a lead and then hold on to it.
Making Welsh fans gasp after a loose kick by Anscombe, and then all of a sudden Blair Kinghorn's coming at you,
flying back, doing
at you.
His best Stewie Hogg impression.
Exactly. And he's not Stewie Hogg. They are pretty tasty.
He's pretty nifty off kick return as well. He has good instincts. He tries to link up and pass, which is good in a fullback.
So that's huge. But it's the thing that you'd be looking for if you're looking to see what, you'll see, I think, pretty early on which way this game is going to go.
I think so,
just based on how hungry Scotland look.
The collision zone will be kind of telling as well. If Wales are monstering them, then that's a long way.
The focus that they were playing with against England. I mean, there was a lot of looseness. There was crazy passes, but there was also just this hunger. They were off the line quickly in attack. They were resourcing the breakdown well, but then it was just quick ball.
it was a day of days. It was one of those days where it all came off well for them as well. But the ambition they showed,
but it was as a
great,
result of the intensity and the focus and the drive that they were playing with, and that's so key this week.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, they need something out of the tournament. If they meekly lose this game, that'll thoroughly be it'll be Fortress Murrayfield kind of ousted as an idea, certainly in recent history, because that's 3 on the bounce pretty much, apart from the Italy game. At home, which is like, that's just no good
and
at all.
It wasn't the crack last year at all with them. So
that's a diminishing return if that's to be the case.
I think
it's still risky for Wales. It's a very risk laden game, and they'd be fools to be looking past it to Ireland, which there's potential for it. I don't suspect that they will, but you never know. And even big teams,
awkward week for them with the whole Welsh regions thing as well.
That too, like that coming up could not be worse timing as far as just cutting off your nose to spite your face.
There's stories of players in the regions were sort of texting the guys in the squad to see if they had an in on what was going on.
What's going on? Yeah, and it's, I'm busy playing for Wales here. What's going on? We're merging with who now? What? No, that seems absolutely baffling, and hopefully it won't be a disruption. But
Gatland, to be fair to him, came out and said that it actually had been a little bit. It's obviously taking the focus off a little bit, and he was disappointed. But
because it's such a damp squid to throw into the mix there on your Grand Slam England beating week,
crazy. But they from their perspective in terms of what to do with the ball, one of the things that I'd like to see, I'm still a little worried. Like, I think they're a very good team. I think they can, as we've reiterated a few times, they've a great versatility to them. They can play in a lot of different ways. But that 10-12 axis of Anscombe and Hadley Parks is not very. It hasn't been very creative. Anscombe has struggled a little bit, and they've just in offense they've really failed to play Jay Davis.
Jay Davis isn't getting into that. That's been actually a problem with this Six Nations more than even autumn. He was more impactful than he has been. And last week, there you could make the argument that they picked and jammed and kept it tight, and the dividends eventually came tactically. But it's still true that their centres just didn't get into the game in any kind of offensive way. They didn't seem proactive with the ball. They were either link men or dummy men, and it feels like there's more to offer, certainly from Jay Davis with ball in hand.
100%.
And it's a big weapon that they're kind of currently just not quite getting into the game, into the mix properly, and this being a week for it because Scotland notoriously soft in the centres.
Well, that's what you want to be testing.
So it's like, you want to be throwing your Hadley Parks, to be honest, despite not being that creative, is actually not a terrible option against that Scotland pack, because he's just going to be big and charging betwixt them. And
Hadley Parks and Jay Davis in the centres is not totally dissimilar from Jamie Roberts and Jay Davis in the centres. That worked so well in the Warren Ball era in the Six Nations against these type of sides. It would be like Warren Ball, which we've much derided on this podcast, is a good option and strategy for this game. And when Wales, they can, the trumpet that they can blow about themselves most is that they can play in many different ways. This week you'd be thinking Warren Ball all day. It's big men running short lines into the soft centre of the Scots, holding a lot of the ball, and
eventually finding your wingers,
size, suck them in, then go wide.
Fact, I suspect this could be a week for a Jay Davis try. Well, like it feels like it's on the cards.
That's the winning picture. The question mark is over Anscombe, who's been backed by the coaches, and his ability to play the guys into the game a bit more.
It's true. It's like how is he utilising it? I kind of have a feeling about him similar to your take on Carberry, that he's a better 15 than he is a 10, but with Liam Williams there, you don't need a better 15. You need a useful option at 10. He's probably closer to the 10 jersey than the 15 jersey with Liam Williams playing the way he is.
But that said, it's worth mentioning that your man Patchell is playing now a few weeks back and still not with a look in for Scarlets, and he's a very competent 10 who, it seems strange to me, isn't getting a go now in the Six Nations. Granted, it's a Grand Slam run.
He just kind of missed the boat, I suppose, in terms of the squad for the tournament. But
I don't know if Anscombe's the guy though, and that's the point. Like, I think Bigger's a great bench man.
When you think of it though, in terms of how much game time has Patchell had over the last few years, you're just giving Anscombe a bit of that game time now. in advance of the World Cup. So then you really do have 3 legitimate options come World Cup time.
It's true,
with
but
Patchell and Bigger and himself.
There's an argument that Patchell might be your top guy come World Cup time, though, and he's going to be coming.
It could be.
Cold,
it's not.
perhaps.
Maybe so. Maybe so. They do have the warm up games, and like Scarlets are still in the running for post-season stuff in the Pro 14 anyway. So you'll have some competitive fixtures to come anyway. Maybe that's why they're leaving him in the region they need him. He needs to bail them out. But yeah, no. So like he's still getting game time. I'm less concerned about that. Like I think some of that's blown out of proportion a little bit. Like in terms of that was the other thing that was the arguments that were coming forward for giving players minutes now in terms of affecting their World Cup form. And it feels like form goes in cycles that are way different from this. Like you're going to play yourself into form for the end of the Six Nations and then go through the end of the regular season. Then there will be a tapering off period again.
World Cup camp.
Yeah, which will involve a bit of rest and recovery, and then a bit of getting sharp again. And it's like
quite a bit of strength and conditioning to start off with.
Exactly.
Then playing some rugby, then getting yourself back in the groove, playing some warm up matches.
So as far as minutes are concerned in the Six Nations cycle, as far as affecting your World Cup form, I don't fully buy it. But what I do think is the value in the minutes is just giving players who haven't had the time there a bit of time there, so there's some reference point for confidence.
Sure.
And that's the more utility you're getting out of it.
Yeah.
And so for Anscombe, maybe it's wise that they're sticking with him, because you never know if, like the New Zealand template of however many men going down, and then suddenly you need your 3rd or 4th choice guy to be able to go in there and do the job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Line-out's going to be important for Wales as well. Scotland do have a couple of steals in them. Breakdown's going to be a massive area. Scotland, we were shooting this on Wednesday night, and Scotland have not as of yet named their team.
Yeah, that'll be tomorrow as we're uploading.
I haven't even checked the squad yet, but I assume even with 40 minutes of rugby that they've brought, and maybe this is a bold assumption, but Hamish Watson, if he's in there, good. If he's not, he probably should be. As good as Jamie Ritchie's been, you could even put both of them on. With Josh Strauss at 8, but they need that breakdown competition to go right.
Who else was playing in the row or in the back row?
I think it was
last week.
Magnus Bradbury.
That's right. Yeah. He's he's a big ball storming kind of ball carrier. He might be a good option off the bench. I like, because I'm not in favour of yanking Ritchie out of there. I actually think he's been trying pretty hard and doing some good work, as has Strauss, doing some good shifts. So yeah, get Hamish back in. 2 7s is disruptive. That would be good, because they're good off turnover ball traditionally anyway.
Be huge.
So, yeah.
Be huge. It'd be a great way to stop Wales when your defence may not be able to.
Yeah, if you're going to be soaking a lot of physical hits on the off short balls, maybe. Yeah. Position 2 poachers in around there,
exactly, and just harry their scrum half, because Welsh scrum halves are making errors, especially if harried.
Yes, I know. But Welsh scrum halves are like a breed all of their own. They have their own little halfbacks that all kind of vaguely play the game the same kind of frenetic, crazy way, where it's like in equal parts brilliant and chaotic and crazy at the same time, and sometimes catastrophic at that as well. Like some of Gareth Davis's plays during the first couple of weeks were really poor off the bench. He was coming off the bench, and
Alan Davis's performance against Italy was appalling as well.
Really annoyed me. Do you know what?
Trying to buy penalties.
Yeah, but it's so soft and slow then as well, because the net result is that you fall on your arse trying to buy a penalty. The ref says no, get up, and then you just have to get up and go again, and you've created what was a class 1 second ruck has now become a 6 second ruck, because you're dicking around on the floor. Stop doing that.
For sure. And so from Scotland's perspective, harrying breakdown is obviously massive. In terms of shutting Scotland down, I have a theory that a positive way of playing Finn Russell is to present him with false pictures. You've had it's a good theory where it's like if you're giving a staggered line to invite a chip, he's more often than not going to go for it. He's like a dog with a car sometimes. When he sees something, he's like, he's heads up all day, and it's working for him at the moment. But exactly that, you need to like disguise the sweeper, give him the picture of an outside in rush that's shutting off the outside, and invite that chip, and then the sweeper is just there. That's
ideally counter off it as well.
Exactly. Those are the kind of false pictures that you want to present. And other than that, it's obvious we talked about from Scotland's perspective about solving it, but plan A for Scotland is to get outside them. Wales shouldn't be letting that happen. You've got to source the width of the field and tell Scotland you have to come through us, you have to suck us in if you want to go wide, and challenge them to do that.
This is it. Like Scotland, I would hope, should be picking I would be going Toolis and and
of course, Johnny Gray is
Gilchrist.
the incumbent.
Johnny Gray was there last week, and
Was he?
I think so. Yeah.
No, I know.
Oh, I
Was
know,
he?
right? Yeah. But no, I would be going with them just to get that ball running going, because I actually rate the two boys and what they've been doing for Edinburgh all week as
100%.
exactly what they need to suck there. Like, that's the kind of go forward that they need.
McAnally as well.
McAnally as well,
Yeah.
another one, and he's one prone to getting
Edinburgh
off
are missing
well.
those guys so much at the moment.
Yeah,
like it's telling.
Costing their team.
Their
Their
season,
season is
yeah,
actually
crumbling
completely
without them.
capitulating without their spine.
All for the sake of Scottish defeats.
Yes, indeed. Glorious or not so glorious Scottish defeats. And could this be another one? Another glorious Scottish defeat, perhaps?
I think they would just be relieved right now to get a performance that resembles something of
what they
competence.
Yeah,
and-
well, like something that looks like Scotland, because they haven't. And like I was saying, like we were talking, bringing back that mantra or that mission statement that Gregor Townsend was making, that we want to play the fastest rugby in the world, which is like lovely, noble thought, but of late they've been the second quickest team on the pitch,
Yes.
let alone in the world. Like, they've been slower.
They have.
They've been slower than themselves, but also than the opponents. So it's
And
like, it's not good.
even when keeping it tight, it is good practice for Scotland to be moving quickly.
Yeah.
Getting offloads
And
going.
whether that means, like we were saying last week, maybe dropping Greg, not entirely. I would like get him onto the bench maybe and bring in not Ali Price but George Horn.
George Horn's not in the squad for this week.
I
I
know.
heard that much. So it is
I know.
Ali Price. And
It is going to be Ali Price. This is what I'm saying though, is to not pick Ali Price and to pick George Horn, and failing that, pick Henry Purgas.
Henry Purgas gets no love. He's
good scrummy,
yeah.
and he's quick as well, which is in the mould that this. If this Scotland team want to be playing that way, it means yes, you're going to need a helter skelter, quick scrummy who can feed Finn, so then everything comes off Finn pretty much.
Yeah.
And yeah, if you want to play that way for 50 minutes to 60 minutes and then bring Greg Laidlaw on, or try and play that way for the first 40 minutes, if it's not working, bring Greg Laidlaw on. It's a good little argument. It's a bit more of a controlled. You can mix the tempo up, but I know that there's been a lot of calls for Greg just being like, it's probably illustrative, and there's probably some truth in it, that it's just a clash of styles going on. Like I like on paper the balance that someone like Laidlaw brings with a guy like Finn at 10.
Yeah.
Like on paper that looks like it should be good, because there's a little bit of everything in that partnership. But
sense and sensitivity.
sense and nonsense.
Yeah.
But sometimes Greg is a little too slow, it's a little too tight, and like certainly they've just been knocked for confidence, so they're just fractionally slower anyway. So maybe an injection of pace from somewhere to try and spark that thing into life. There's always a risk with that it could just go catastrophically wrong.
There is,
as
but
well.
it's
But something does need sparking into
and
life for them.
certainly the dual identity of the team has yet to be married into something that's cohesive and
it's
makes
very
sense.
two-faced kind of. It's instant good and bad in a set. Very often you're getting those
the
pictures.
ideal would be to see boys like Toulis and Gilchrist, attacking those fringes and running off one each other and getting offloads going, and then generating quick ball that's ahead of the game line, that's feeding the back line with quick ball against a fractured line. That's how they marry, and then it's just another string to the bow of the attack. But we're yet to see that.
No,
and again,
hasn't,
it's like you're talking about Wales, who are, in terms of shutting down that game,
also in terms of cohesion, like that Scotland desperately seeking cohesion, Wales looking cohesive, cohesive and strong. So it's a big ask even for them to get that kind of purchase around the fringes, because Wales are as well as good at harrying and creating long tackles into ruck sequences. They're also pretty good at stuffing offloads or targeting the ball as well and being a bit awkward. So it's a big ask, but you need them in doing it.
And certainly you would need, and almost to sum up, it's got to be, for Scotland's picture, it's got to be there's got to be a greater intensity from your guys to their guys. You got to be catching them cold and striking and not taking your foot off the neck. Then
that's it.
And from Wales's perspective, it's just about not letting that happen. If you can match Scotland for intensity, if you can keep the game to a narrow score, you'd probably back your experience and your general superiority to see
as well as their second half form, because like Scotland, as well as doing like firing things, they struggle in the second half. Things like against Ireland, I think in their last few performances against Ireland, they've not scored a point in the second half. They do taper off even when they have their full squad available, whereas Wales do the opposite. They can soak a lot and look a bit rudderless in the first half and then come back at you, and they really do. So like you're saying, just don't be caught cold by going 21 points down or something before you start to play, which can happen when you're sleepwalking into a game that's not as big as the game next week.
Yeah, and you can't sleep on Finn Russell, not for 1 second.
No, exactly, because he'll make a play in that exact second.
Yeah,
so it's like there's always that potential there with Scotland, which is why we love him.
We do.
Even at Edinburgh, I think it's a big ask, just because I know that Welsh juggernauts, when they get rolling, are very, very tough to stop.
Yeah.
And
I mean, when is the last time you had like a clear Welsh Grand Slam that was on that failed?
I can't recall.
It's a good question, isn't it?
Yeah,
usually they just get
like,
it done.
Yeah. If they're not winning the Grand Slam, if they lose in week 1 and then they're not winning the Grand Slam, then it's a pretty rudderless kind of bad tournament, and they can end up finishing in the bottom half. But it's not to say that next year they won't win a World Cup or win a World Cup or a Grand Slam.
Yeah,
you know,
indeed,
like it's they're still always thereabouts, and
100%.
this year they're definitely there.
100%.
Yeah. Thank you very much for watching that video. If you're new here, please like and subscribe down below, and leave a comment as well, because we enjoy the chat and conversation. Thank you.